Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Sonic Academy. Today we're talking all things Pultec. We're going to be taking a look at the brand new Bettermaker EQ232D EQ from Plugin Alliance. It's a modern Pultec style EQ. We're going to be seeing how that matches up with some more traditional Pultec style EQs, and also just discussing what a Pultec EQ is and why you should be incorporating that into your workflow. Let's dive in and check this out. Right, so here we see just the original EQP1, arguably one of the most famous EQ equalizers out there, probably this alongside the GML 8200, which is kind of the forefather of the parametric EQ, the modern parametric EQ that you find in mixing desks these days. And the Pultec, the EQP1, was the first passive design as far as equalizers are concerned. So passive meaning nothing is boosted when you're working with the EQ. It's a tube EQ and there's no active amplifier stages in the equalizer itself. So in order to boost something, everything else has to be dropped. So it's just based on resistance from the tubes that allows you to shape the sound. So this makes it a really good tool for mastering, especially because the volume change, it only goes downwards. So there's no real volume change when applying EQ. The levels always kind of stay the same. On top of that, the tone of the tubes is, it's been heard on countless records over the years. It's very well known for its sort of smiley face EQ that you can apply with this and its warm tones. So the other draw card with a Pultec EQ is the ability to boost and attenuate or cut at exactly the same time. So we're going to quickly just look at that just to kind of illustrate how that works. So I've got the brand new Bettermaker EQ232D from Plugin Alliance up here, and we're just going to look at the Pultec or the passive section. This one is actually a hybrid between an active section over here and the passive section, which doesn't look like the original, but very much based on the same circuitry as the original EQP1. Let's just apply a boost, and you can see here the frequency response of the boosts that I'm applying. That is the low frequency boost occurring there. You could then set the or preset frequencies for that boost, and then if I dial that back, you'll see we can attenuate as well at those same frequencies. But watch what happens when we boost and attenuate at the same time. You get that curve for the low frequency boost, and then as you dial in the attenuation, you can actually alter the shape of the curve by boosting and cutting at the same time. And if you notice as well, this area here, coincidentally, is around that sort of 200 to 400 mark. So it's a really good tool for kind of cutting out some of that mud by adjusting the curves to focus on that area. The same goes for the highs. You can boost according to whatever frequency you set here. Let's bring that over. You'll see there's your high boost, and again, you can cut at the same time. This one actually allows you to cut at different frequencies to the highs, so you can get that little dip around there again, boost and cutting. So there you go. That's how you kind of morph those EQ shapes into new curves that are going to give you that sort of really pleasant sound, easy on the ear, and really great sounding EQs. We're going to jump into my dear W now and just take a look at three different ones. We're going to be looking at the new Bettermaker EQ232, a more traditional, not based on the actual original model. I don't have a original modeled plugin version of the EQP1, but the Pultec is very close. It very closely follows the original design, as well as the MkII. This was the mid-range version of the Pultec EQ, the original Pultec EQ, which obviously just focuses on the mid, but also gives you the options to sort of dip and peak at the same time. And then we're going to look at another passive style EQ, but a slightly different design, and that's the Pass EQ from SPL. This one I use loads. I really love this EQ. And we're just going to take a look at some of the different controls and just compare some of the frequencies and then take a listen to what they sound like. So as I was saying, the Bettermaker EQ232, this is something that I quite appreciate with plugin alliances. They often tend to model stuff which hasn't been done before. There are a ton of the original PEQ1 plugins out there from various different developers. And Plugin Alliance often tends to do ones that we don't see. Now, the Bettermaker is sort of famed for their mastering EQs, and this is no longer available. It's no longer in production. And on top of that, it has a $4,000 price tag, I believe. So it's really nice to have a faithful recreation of this in plugin form. As I said, this is actually a hybrid. The section that you see here, I'm actually just going to minimize the bottom because we have the controls linked. The section that you see here is essentially the same as the PEQ1, the low and high boosts and passive design, whereas the active part of this is the mid-range or the parametric EQs here. So this is not the same as the MkII that you see in the soft tube version. This is in fact active, so it has amplifier stages built into that. We'll just take a look at some of the basic controls quickly. You've got a high pass filter that you can enable, the two active parametric equalizers, and then the passive EQ section that you can enable there. High pass frequency controls. Now it is digitally controlled, the original hardware as well, but it's fully analog circuitry on the inside. The active section, fairly self-explanatory. You have gain for each of these. Your Q values can be adjusted here, and your boost amount for the parametric section. Now I want to just take a look mostly at the Pultec side of things, or the this passive section here. So let's just compare the two together now. We're going to kind of just mirror the settings on the Tubetech and take a listen to the difference. So I boosted 5 dBs on 60 Hertz here, as well as on the 232. And we can just take a listen on a drum loop that I have set up here. So very, very similar. I will dial in the attenuation as well. We'll attenuate by 5 dBs as well and see what we get. Let's maybe make these settings a little bit more extreme. We'll attenuate a little bit more up to 10. You notice that the Bettermaker actually has more range up to 14, whereas the Tubetech only has up to 10 dBs of reduction. So you're maintaining a little bit more of the low end with this one. In fact, boosting all the way up to, or attenuating all the way up to the 14 seems to get them pretty close. So very, very close, the two, at least the passive sections of these two EQs. Let's take a look at the highs. I think it's a little bit more apparent, the differences when you are comparing the highs together. We'll boost at 6. We'll leave the bandwidth sharp for now. Definitely different in the highs, these two. I find this one, the 232, actually preferable. It's a little bit more crisp. This one kind of has a little bit more of a sharper Q sound. We're going to dial up the bandwidth as well to compare that between the two of them. That's a lot closer with the bandwidth dialed up. This one kind of tends to be a little bit sharper, but I like the airiness of the Bettermaker. It's a really great sounding EQ, this. There's not much sense in comparing the mid-range between the two of them, seeing as this is a passive design as well, and this is active. But let's just quickly, lastly, just dial in some attenuation on the high frequencies and do one last little comparison. This is by no means a very technical comparison. It's more just to kind of get a rough idea as to what each one of these EQs sounds like. And let's just set the high frequency, the KCS for the high frequency to 6 like we do on this one. In fact, we're at 8 on this one. So you'll notice that some of the program frequencies are slightly different between the two. That seems to be pretty close actually though. And actually the volume's comparable there as well, so not much volume increase going on there between the two. And very, very close sounding EQ. So I think they definitely did nail the sound on this Bettermaker, considering that the components in this are the same as the EQP1. Now I want to check out another passive design and just compare that to the other ones. This is one that I use a lot currently. And this is the Pass EQ from SPL. Now this is not based on, it is a Pultec design in the sense that you can cut and boost at the same time. However, it's not based on the same circuitry, I believe, as the original Pultec. And you'll notice that you have slightly different program frequencies here available to you on this one. So we'll get them close-ish and just take a listen to the difference between the two of them. We'll just reset all this. Dial back on these again. Take off our high pass filter. And let's just check out the boost. We'll boost around 60 again, or possibly, we'll try a 60 and 100. And this SPL Pass EQ, I particularly like the boost at around 80 Hertz. Try 120 as well. For me, I really like the low end on the SPL, just that the choice of frequencies here for me, around 80 and 120 are real sweet spots for that low end, bringing out some of that body and a kick and punch as well around 120. I find that really useful. I often grab this for boosting around there. You'll notice as well that you can push quite a lot on these because of the passive design. You can be quite heavy-handed with the amount of gain or reduction that you are adding in. Let's just quickly take a listen. You'll notice now with the cut frequency on the SPL Pass EQ, one benefit here is that you can actually set a number of different options for the attenuation, whereas the Pultec style, you are locked into the same frequency as the boost that you are doing. So we can take a listen to that again. We'll just grab the Pass EQ and take a listen to the cuts at the same time. We're now cutting really low down at 30. And let's just try and match the sound between the two of them. That's pretty close when you're cutting higher up. Cool, and let's check out the highs on the SPL as opposed to the Bettermaker. We'll boost at, see how close we can get with the frequencies. We'll go to 10 and boost the highs. Let's go around 6 dBs. We'll boost around 6 on this at 10K as well. We actually have a 10K, so we can compare the two. And let's do a cut as well. Let's go to 5K. 5 or 7K is going to be close to our 5. Yeah. Let's go with the 5. So they're pretty much lined up. We'll dial in some attenuation. Let's just adjust the Q for the SPL as well, as broad as possible. Cool. So to my ears, at least, they are very, very similar. All of them kind of nail that Pultec sound for me. I don't have the hardware at all, so I don't have a reference to compare them to. But if the sort of general consensus around the plug-in align stuff is concerned, they are pretty close to the hardware models. So yeah, that's the Bettermaker EQ232D. If you're on the Plugin Alliance subscription, it should be out now. Test it out. I think it's a really great sounding EQ, and I think it holds up pretty well to the Tubetech as well. Unfortunately, don't have the option of comparing this to something like the UAD PEQ1. But I suspect that there won't be a massive difference between them. It did take me a little while just to get used to the controls here. They are slightly different to what you'd expect on one of these analog EQs. But once you get used to the sort of layout of this, it's a really nice EQ to work with. But like I said, my personal opinion would be to stick with the SPL Pass EQ. Perhaps not as famous as the PEQ1, but I really like the workflow with this one. So this is kind of my passive EQ of choice. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found this informative. I will catch you guys soon here at Sonic Academy. Cheers.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.